Now, dear listener, you know I've talked to you a lot on the Politicrat Daily podcast about making your own podcast. And let me tell you something, Anchor gives you the best opportunity to do that. It's free of charge. Yes, it's free. And there are lots of creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your own phone or computer. How about that? And you can even add songs to your podcast from Spotify. It's really wonderful. You can do this, and it really is very easy. And Anchor will even distribute your podcast for you. It can be heard on all kinds of platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. And you can make some money too. And money making is a good thing. It's everything you need in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Welcome to the Politicrat. I'm Omar Moore. It is Saturday, May the 22nd, 2021. On this edition of the Politicrat, Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot talks about allowing Black and Brown journalists only to interviews of her on her 2-year anniversary of entering office as the first Black, female, and first lesbian mayor of Chicago. And ooh, are some people upset about that. I'm going to be talking about all of this coming up next.
Today is Chicago Mayor Lightfoot's 2-year anniversary in office. To mark that occasion, Lightfoot announced she would only grant one-on-one interviews to Black and Brown journalists. WGN political reporter Tamon Bradley sat down with her to learn more about that decision.
Your office says that you invited Black and Brown journalists to this round of interview. Why? I'm happy to vouch for Craig Wall, for Heather Sharon, and others.
Well, look, I think in this one day, when we are looking at the 2-year anniversary of my inauguration, as a woman of color, as a lesbian, it's important to me that diversity is put front and center.
Mayor Lori Lightfoot defending her most unusual decision to only invite Black and Brown journalists to her office for one-on-one interviews. The move infuriated the mostly white City Hall press corps. The outrage exploded on Twitter. One Latino newspaper reporter wrote he agreed to the sit-down but backed out to make a point.
If I, as the Black woman mayor, the first ever, don't challenge us, the collective us, to do better, to really make sure that in every institution, it reflects the diversity and nuance and texture of our city, then shame on me.
Mayor Lightfoot is known to clash with opponents or those who question her. Reporting on leaked emails revealed the mayor, upset about critical reporting and commentary, canceled her Chicago Tribune subscription. There are some folks you've been feuding with, some of them my white colleagues. Some people look at this as sort of a payback.
It has nothing to do with that. The facts are the facts. Look at the people who cover City Hall.
Charles Thomas knows the City Hall beat well as a former television political reporter. He says although newsroom diversity is an important topic, he questions the mayor's timing.
This is a distraction. Instead of talking about crime, talking about disarray in her administration, talking about education, talking about city finances, we're talking about this.
In our one-on-one, we discuss police reform, an elected school board, COVID's impact on businesses, and much more. Catch our sit-down with Mayor Lightfoot later today on WGN. Tamon Bradley, WGN News.
And there you go. That was the WGN News report from May the 20th, just a couple of days ago. Now, listen to this. Listen. That report was, quite frankly, dishonest. I played it for a reason. The reason being that I wanted you to hear, and that clip is available on YouTube. I wanted you to hear how an organization, WGN, which is a 99.9% white media organization, news media organization, is covering this decision by Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot to have, for one day only. It was only for one day. And that's something that is not being picked up on, as you heard Mayor Lightfoot say. For this one day, I want to have only black and brown journalists to talk to for interviews. One freaking day. That is not being talked about enough, by the way. And the reason why this report is dishonest is it's coming from a point of view of a news media organization that is not black. Not even close to black. So this idea that, she should be talking about other things. No, we should be talking about this. And the report skirts over the newsroom. Well, yes, the newsroom diversity is a problem, but, and they just skip over that and then go back to some guy talking about some other, they got some dragged a black reporter out of the woodwork somewhere and have him going off about, she should be talking about all this. Well, the thing is, the news media in Chicago is talking about all those things all the freaking time. And yes, Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot should be brought to task and critical questions should be raised about a lot of these issues. Of course, she's the mayor. Of course, and she's getting those questions. So for someone to get up on there and talk about, this is a distraction. No, it's not a distraction. When 99% of the media in this country is white, or rather when 99% of these white news media organizations, newsrooms, are completely white, that isn't a freaking distraction. That's a freaking issue. It's a real serious issue. Because you have one lens and one lens only through which your whole news world and the entire planet is being covered. And that one lens accounts for 11 or 12% of the entire planet, looking at the 89 or 88% of the entire planet. And I don't think that's healthy. I think that excludes a whole lot of freaking people, don't you? And their perspectives. And that's why you don't see their perspectives, black, brown, Asian, native. You don't see those perspectives enough in the news media in the United States. Because the perspective is coming from white executives and white news reporters and white editors and white producers. And when that's the perspective, you ain't going to see black or brown or Asian or any other group, native, indigenous. You're not going to see any of those groups covered in the way they should be covered. And they're covered only through these very narrow and racist lenses. That is how it's going to be done. I mean, it's simple. And so for Mayor Lightfoot to, for one day, say, I want black and brown journalists to have access to me, black media to have access to me. And she didn't even say black media. She said black and brown journalists who may actually work for these all-white news organizations. Practically all white. Again, it's about 99% white. If you look at all of these news organizations and their newsrooms across America, across the United States specifically, there aren't very many black executives in there. Very few. The New York Times' Dean Baquet, who's made a mess of things. He ain't the first and he won't be the last person as an executive, black, white, or other, anyone else, to be making a mess of things in the New York Times. The New York Times, and as much as I read from it, has gone downhill over the last 25 years. It's been an absolute joke. It really has. I mean, there are some excellent reporters and some good reporting done at times, but that whole newspaper has lost its luster. It really has. But if you look across this country at the people who control and own newsrooms and populate newsrooms, they are white. And everybody knows that. The white reporters know that. That racist on Fox News, or all of them, all of those racists on Fox News know that. With their lies and dishonesty around Mayor Lightfoot, they all know the newsroom that they're in, the company that they criticize Mayor Lightfoot in, is a completely, almost virtually all white organization. Fox News is virtually all white, in front of and behind the camera. It's virtually all, okay, so you've got 5 black people you can count on one friggin' hand in front of a camera at Fox. I can count 2 of them. But this is what's going on, folks, and I think Mayor Lightfoot here should be given some credit. I have no problem with it. These news organizations are not going to change. I mean, they're not. Unless they become anti-racist, unless they become organizations that decide with enough pressure or even without pressure, and they're not going to just do this on their own. Unless they get black ownership and conscious black ownership, because there's some black folk in these organizations who aren't conscious either, and they will absolutely stick the knife in some of us. So every brother ain't a brother, and every sister ain't a sister. We need conscious black folk in these positions of power. And when that happens, you will start to see shifts. Now, some of these news media organizations slowly but surely are adding black executives. ABC News, MSNBC has done this in the last few months, in the last year or so. There are a few, but that's a very, 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 very tippy top of an iceberg. That's the very least that has to be done. And number 2, there has to be a lot more of this. You cannot call yourself a free, F-R-E-E, society and have the newsrooms in your so-called free, F-R-E-E, society in the United States or anywhere else in the world be 99% white. That is not freedom. That is oppression. And that means that the news that you're going to be getting is coming from a very white perspective and no one else's perspective. And when the country, and in this case, when Chicago is 50% black and Latino, if not more, and you've got a 99% white newsroom, 99% of your newsroom is white, covering a city that's nearly 50% black and Latino, what do you think is going to happen there? What do you think your news is going to taste like? What do you think your news is going to sound and look like? And it's all well and good to have the black journalists sit there and say, well, I can vouch for this person and that person. The black journalist who you heard there at the end there, and I forget his name, Omar Bradley, I think. And pardon me, Mr. Bradley, if I got your name wrong, I apologize. But he's working for WGN. He's not going to sit there and challenge WGN. He's not going to sit there on camera and do that. And I dare say he ain't going to challenge them off camera. And he ain't going to stand up and say, hey, look, you need to hire more black folk in here. You need to have black VPs here. You need to have much more black executives, not just the 1 or 2 that you might have. You need to have a 45% black newsroom here. You need to equalize this some more. You need to have a better representation of black folk and brown folk in here. And he might be told, well, if you want a better representation of black folk or brown folk, particularly brown folk, go to Telemundo. Well, that ain't good enough. And even at Telemundo, I question whether there are brown folk, enough of them there either. And Telemundo is owned by Comcast last time I checked, which is a white corporation. So I do think that this is... this whole thing is just that report. I played it because, again, I think it's important to hear that report and important to see where or here in this case where the dishonesty comes. That moment where, again, I want to repeat this. Well, yes, newsroom diversity is an issue. People are saying that there are other things. It's like, wait a minute, you can't skirt over and gloss over the part about while newsrooms and diversity is an issue. Wait a minute. That's the whole point of why Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot is doing this. Again, it was for one freaking day. Here's what Mayor Lightfoot said on Twitter earlier this week, the 19th of May, on her 2-year anniversary of being elected. I'm going to read these tweets out. Her Twitter handle is @Chicago'sMayor. This is from May the 19th. That was earlier this week, May 19th, 2021. And this is a thread that I'm going to read from Mayor Lori Lightfoot @Chicago'sMayor on Twitter. I ran to break up the status quo that was failing so many. That isn't just in City Hall. It's a shame that in 2021, the City Hall press corps is overwhelmingly white in a city where more than half of the city identifies as Black, Latino, AAPI, that's Asian Pacific Islander, or Native American. Diversity and inclusion is imperative across all institutions, including media. In order to progress, we must change. This is exactly why I'm being intentional about prioritizing media requests from people of color reporters on the occasion of the 2-year anniversary of my inauguration as mayor of this great city. This is an imbalance that needs to change. Chicago is a world-class city. Our local media should reflect the multiple cultures that comprise it. We must be intentional about doing better. I believed that when running for office. I stand on this belief now. It's time for the newsrooms to do better and build teams that reflect the makeup of our city. I don't have any problem with anything that Mayor Lori Lightfoot tweeted in that thread that I just read out to you. And people think that just because there may be scandals or issues, and God knows there are in Chicago with these killer cops there, and I don't agree with a lot with some of what Mayor Lightfoot has done. Who does? Who agrees with everything a politician does? Do you? I mean, I don't agree with a lot of things Joe Biden's done, and I voted for him before, and I still don't agree with some of the things he's done now. But I worked hard, as many of you did, and millions of people did, around this country to make sure that he was going to be walking into the White House on January 20th of this year, 2021, and it paid off. All of our hard work paid off. But that doesn't mean that any of these politicians are exempt from any criticism when they do things wrong. We can't be silent. And that includes my criticisms of Mary. See, this is what happens when you've got so many things on your mind to say about this topic, and you just combine everything. Mayor, which has the combination of the word Mary in it, right? If you look at the word mayor, an anagram of that in part has the word Mary, the name Mary in it. Mayor Lori Lightfoot. I've got some criticisms of her, but this is not a distraction. And the people who call this a distraction are the people who do not want to look at racism, who deliberately want to ignore racism. And that includes some of these black folk out here who are acting a fool and playing like this isn't a problem. That includes you as well. Those people out there who want to kowtow to power and want to kiss up to power and don't want to piss off power. And so then pretend that there isn't an issue in this country that's been going on for hundreds of blooming years. That all of a suddenly, this is a distraction. No, it's not. And because the thing is that Americans, white Americans, treat racism as, it's a distraction. There are some conscious white folk who would absolutely curse out some of these ignorant black folk out here talking that, this is a distraction. It's a distraction, is it? There are some conscious white people who would actually do that. Don't use that word that you try to use for Tim Scott, the senator of South Carolina, because I am not for anybody using that word either to describe Senator Tim Scott. Doesn't give those white people who feel emboldened to start using that word either. And you know the word I'm talking about, the two words. As well as the other obvious word. But the point I'm trying to make here is that report that I played, not surprisingly, completely ignores the realities of the news industry in the United States, the news industry in the United Kingdom, the news industry in France, the news industry in Spain, in Portugal, or in these countries all over the planet, where you do not see black people, largely. And I'm not talking about necessarily in front of the camera. You're not seeing them in the newsrooms. You're not seeing them make the policy decisions. You're not seeing them make the editorial decisions. And you're not seeing them in those positions. And don't bring me the 2 or 3 people that you can find on a map if you close your eyes and point. I am talking about people in charge of these organizations. I'm talking about your editorial boards being filled with at least 10 black people on them. If your editorial board has 23 people on it, 25 people on it, however big these boards are, if you've got 30 people on it or 25, I want 10 of them to be black. There's no reason why that shouldn't be. No reason. And this should be the case on all these things. We need this. It's the same thing with these magazines, where you've got, and I've talked about this a million times, where you've got these covers of black women and someone is making an editorial decision to alter the cover and chop off the hair of Solange Knowles. So you don't see that full Africanness from her hair. So her hair is being cropped off by someone white at a magazine. Go and look it up. I'm not making any of this up. I don't sit here and make up these things. These are all facts. You can go look this up. Solange Knowles, that whole issue with her cover on this magazine, whichever magazine it was now, I don't even care which one. It was one of these big magazines. And for how long have these fashion magazines done this to black women? Where they've tried to crop them, do all kinds of things. And don't tell me, well, they do this to white women. Listen, I am talking about when you absolutely deny the blackness, the Africanness of a black woman, and you put her on your cover, and then you chop off this part of the cover, so you don't see the full effect of her hair. You don't get that. They did the same thing with Lupita Nyong'o. And I forget which magazine it was, fashion-wise. And again, somebody in that magazine, and you can, again, go look this up. They made the same editorial decision. Well, we're going to change this cover of Lupita Nyong'o. So you didn't see her full Africanness, her full blackness. It was completely truncated and Europeanized. And Lupita Nyong'o put out a statement on Twitter, I believe, and on Instagram at the time. This is about three years ago or so. 3 or 4 years ago now. I forget which. But the point is that this has gone on. Did this to Beyonce. It lightened Beyonce, made her look like she was a white woman. I mean, they've been doing this forever. And I'm telling you, and you look at these magazines, hardly there's zero black people in the editorial room making the decision. You look at Vogue, Anna Wintour, you know, how many black folk does she hire? And she is notorious for being a racist and a bigot. I mean, I know Andre Leon Talley has talked about how racist the industry is. And I'm sure Andre would call her a friend. I really wish I could speak to him, by the way. I've been trying to speak to him for the better part of a year about his book. I really would like to talk to him. God, that's one of the most fascinating people I would really like to talk to is Andre Leon Talley. But Anna Wintour, and she's always, she's out there as this wonderful fact. I'm not even going to name call her, but the fact is that she is absolutely, and I think she's even owned up to it recently, she has not done a world of good to black women in fashion. And she's been running Vogue forever. Or she's been behind the... And where's the black people behind the scenes there? Where's the black people behind the scenes making the decisions? And then you see all these ads that get placed in these magazines that are racist as hell. Where are the black people behind those ads? Saying, no, we can't put this ad out here about making this black woman white. And then saying, use this bleach, use our products. It will make you come out brighter. So this 4-photo ad. Use Nivea, use whatever the product. And you've got this black woman removing, I've talked about this before, removing her t-shirt that's brown. And then the next picture, it gets lighter and lighter until it's a completely white woman with a white shirt. Get your whites white. I mean, the blatant racist ways of that ad. It's just right in your face. And all these commentators on ESPN in sports, when there's black women playing tennis, like Serena Williams, like Venus, but particularly when it's Serena Williams playing tennis. And you got Chrissy Evert sitting there, and Cliff Drysdale, and all the rest of them. Not a black person in that booth commenting. And you got all these racist comments from Chrissy Evert. Everybody knows. Everybody on Twitter knows, for goodness sakes, and beyond Twitter, that Chrissy Evert is a half-cocked racist. And not even half-cocked. She's been called on this a million times. But does ESPN replace her with Zena Garrison? Does ESPN replace her with Lori McNeil? Do you think ESPN would make Sloane Stephens a guest commentator to comment on these matches, to lend a black female perspective to these matches that get played? And I don't want to hear people go, well, Mary Jo Fernandez. Okay, Mary Jo Fernandez, one brown woman. Oh, come on. You've got to do a whole lot better than one brown woman. This is the thing that I am talking about, and this is the thing that Lori Lightfoot, the mayor of Chicago, is talking about. That's what we're talking about. The mayor of Chi-Town. The mayor of Chicago is talking about that, and you've got news reports. Oh, well, yeah, we know that newsroom diversity is an issue, but we're going to just slide right on by that and talk about some BS. That is what you call a 99% white newsroom perspective right there. We're just going to slide on by the issue that we don't want to confront and we don't want to deal with because it implicates us. So we got to turn around and make it seem like this black woman over here is half-cocked crazy. And she is not. And it's very dangerous for news organizations that are this white to be acting a fool and pretending that they are covering news in any kind of balanced way. Because 99.5% white newsrooms are not balanced. And they most certainly are not fair. Or maybe they are, because they sure as heck ain't black.
I, Lori Lightfoot.
I, Lori Lightfoot.
Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
That I will support the Constitution of the United States.
That I will support the Constitution of the United States.
And the Constitution of the State of Illinois.
And the Constitution of the State of Illinois.
And that I will faithfully discharge the duties.
And I will faithfully discharge the duties.
Of the office of mayor.
Of the office of mayor.
Of the city of Chicago.
Of the city of Chicago.
According to the best of my ability.
According to the best of my abilities.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Please, thank you. Thank you so very much. As I stand as your mayor, humble and hopeful, honored to be the 56th mayor of this great city. We are a proud city with a proud history. In this moment, I can't help but look at all of you and think about what lies ahead and what we can be together. I'm looking ahead to a city of safe streets and strong schools for every child, regardless of neighborhood or zip code.
That was Lori Lightfoot on her inauguration there. Exactly. Well, just 2 years and 2 days ago today, May 20th, 2019. 2 years and 2 days ago. Mayor Lightfoot there. And look, here's the thing. I must say to you that I do not agree with some of the things that Mayor Lightfoot has done. I think, when it comes to black women, she has, man, oh man, there was a situation with a black woman being harassed and sexually assaulted by someone, I believe, in the DA's office there or something like that. In Chicago, I need to get those facts correct. But she totally, she was not a friend. Put it that way. Mayor Lightfoot was not a friend. As a black woman, not a friend. And the thing with power is that once you get power, you have a choice to make. Especially if you're a black person. You have a choice to make when it comes to black folk. Either you are going to use power in the structure that you now govern in to help make their lives, black folks' lives, safer, more equitable, and create an environment that justice will be a part of the real vocabulary, or you are going to be there to enforce and reinforce the very strictures that continue to oppress and discriminate against black people. And I think a good many Chicago residents who are black will say that Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot has not done enough to satisfy the former category and seems to have done more in service of the latter category. Now, I don't know, it's an unscientific number. But there are things about Mayor Lightfoot that I certainly will never defend. I will absolutely condemn what she did with this particular black woman and how she dealt with that whole situation. Absolutely horrendous. It's absolutely disgraceful. And she should absolutely be called to account for that. Two things can be true at once. One of the phrases I say, not one of my favorites, but it's true that two things can be true at once. You can have some real issues with some of the things that Mayor Lightfoot has done or not done, and also support her in this effort, as I certainly do, for one friggin' day, to allow only black and brown journalists to interview her in accordance with the 2-year anniversary of what you just heard, her inauguration, at least part of the speech at the inauguration, and her swearing in. Chicago has notoriously been, by the way, over the centuries, a corrupt-ass city. And not only that, there's always been issues of racism in Chicago, as there have been all over the country in the United States. And Chicago is viewed, and I think may just be the most segregated city in the entire United States. I think that's very true. I've been to Chicago on a number of occasions. It is very discreet. Very discreet. How discreet in D-I-S-C-R-E-T-E, not D-I-S-C-R-E-E-T. Two different ways to spell that word, and they have two different meanings, even though they sound the same when you actually pronounce them. The D-I-S-C-R-E-T-E, discreet, that I'm talking about, means clear. Not the D-I-S-C-R-E-E-T, which means, well, I'll keep this undercover. I'll keep this on the DL. You know, that kind of thing. And not DL meaning that DL, but the DL meaning very hush-hush on the QT. See, I do like to define things, even though I sometimes decry people being so definitional, because, and I can happily walk that tightrope between those two things, because even though they sound inherently contradictory, I think the simple fact of the matter is that language is very important. And people use definitions, I think, sometimes to stifle conversation and debate. I dare say, though, that is not what I do here. And if I do that here, I want you to say something about it. But my whole point here is I am in danger, grave danger, of of traversing into a different territory, as I have been wont to do at times. But also remembering to yank myself right back to the point that I am trying to make, for sake of clarity and coherence, is that Chicago has always had its issues with all kinds of things. Corruption, police, the police in Chicago. Oh my God. Really? Ask Fred Hampton's family about the police in Chicago. Come on now. The month of May, by the way, is my goodness me. Can we go back about a week and a half to May 13th? 2021. Actually, let's fast forward back 36 years prior to that. May 3rd. Was it May 13th, 1985? Or was it May 13th, 1983? And the move bombing by Philadelphia police, destroying a whole city block and killing at least 10 people, black people, in this household that was lived in with, by this black family that was political and believed in self-determination and justice for black people and for the earth. And it is black mayor ordered the place to be bombed, and the police bombed it, killing black folk. So, when I talk, and you know who the mayor was of Philadelphia back then, W. Wilson Good, with an E on the end of his last name. Go look that up. Again, I don't say things here for shock value. What I'm saying here is all true and it's factual. And I will never steer you wrong. And if I ever have, I will apologize for it, as I have done. And I have corrected it. And I will continue to do that. But that's what I speak to when I go back to saying that black people in power, when they get there in political power, have a real choice to make. I mean, anyone does, but I'm talking about black people here. We have a choice to make when we attain these positions of political power. We can decide, on the one hand, to really make a difference and actually make it so that black communities all over the cities or states or countries that we govern have lives that are lived more comfortably, have laws and orders that protect us, that welcome us, that reduce the level of racist discrimination and animus and violence against us. Or we can, as black people in power, continue the systemic oppression and racism and discrimination and institutionalized racism and be part of reinforcing that on black folk, which is really why I think a lot of the power structure loves this new idea. Oh, you're getting more brown, you're getting more black in this country. There's going to be more black and Latina. Oh, let's hire one of them to just do what we do as white people, but let's just hire one of them to do it. So they can just continue the oppressive system that we have built to oppress black and brown folk. And yeah, there's some black folk who slide right into that spot and they continue the kinds of policies. I mean, you can go to a Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, or you can point to someone like Sheriff David Clark, who's no longer the sheriff of Milwaukee. What a jackass. These black folk who are just absolutely doing plantation work for, I don't even want to go there. You know what I'm talking about. They are doing masses work. Seriously. They are doing, let me just leave that alone. I think I've made my point. And there have been some positive things that Mayor Lightfoot has done in Chicago. And so that's what I was getting at when I said that before and I think that some black residents in Chicago will tell you that Mayor Lightfoot has probably genuflected toward the power structure more. And how would you expect any black person not to, by the way? She's been voted into a system. And I think she knows, as well as anyone else listening to this podcast knows, that if you take one step or two steps outside the system's either going to do one of two things to you: yank your ass back in place or get rid of you. And we know that from history. Just look at the history of the United States, folks. Come on. Let's look at the last 60 years of history of the United States in politics. And you tell me about whether I am selling you a bag of goods. Because I'm not. And I think you know that. But this ain't about what I do or don't do here. This is about an issue that the news media can't ignore. This issue of black representation is so important. And the fact that you look at all these newsrooms up and down the country, across the country, coast to coast, north to south, west of the Mississippi River, east of the Mississippi River, and you see but maybe two black faces, black folk in these newsrooms doing any kind of strong editorial decisions, it's absolutely scandalous. It goes to magazines, it goes to sports, it goes to every walk of life. And the media is the most powerful entity in the country, in the world. And you got no real black representation, which is why black media matters. Roland Martin talks about it all the time. And he mentioned this yesterday, by the way, in his show about Lori Lightfoot. And I wanted to expand upon it here. Lori Lightfoot is absolutely correct in those tweets. And if that report that I played you at the top of this podcast episode had been honest enough to show those tweets and to at least put that issue out there, rather than in a quick soundbite putting the mayor's point about diversity out there and that it's needed, and then just hopping over it with, well, while newsrooms are an issue with the diversity, let's skip over that and have some fool talking about, well, this is a distraction. The point is that there are people who do not want to talk about racism and do not want to talk about the fact that they don't challenge their family members who say racist things in front of them all day long, or every Thanksgiving, or every bank holiday. And they just laugh it off or shrug it off or sit there in silence, laugh uncomfortably or ignore it, which means that it's okay. If you don't say anything or challenge it, you are saying to the person who's being racist and saying racist things that it's okay. Continue on. Carry on as you were. Well, no. I and many other people are here to say, no, it ain't okay. And it's not okay. It isn't okay to carry on as you were. You need to challenge your fellow white family member, friend, and you need to fall out with them and lose their friendship if necessary. You need to not even be talking to that relative of yours if necessary. That's how change gets made. And when I talk about, as I have in previous episodes, about being uncomfortable, this is what I mean. You have to be uncomfortable because we're not going to have a better world unless the discomfort happens somewhere. So this is the thing I'm talking about. And I think that Mayor Lightfoot is absolutely on target when she says what she says here. Those tweets were very important. And you've got people on news media who are working in 99.5% white newsrooms. Newsrooms that are 99.5% white, getting on the air and attacking Mayor Lightfoot, while the people they have producing their segments, writing their segments, directing their segments, editing their segments are all white. All white, look just like them. And I think that if we're really being honest, we all know this is true. And that's why black media matters. That's why black-owned media matters. That means that when you own your own media, you can be free, F-R-E-E, to get out there and cover events and speak truth to power and show your audience that you care about them, that you care about the issues that matter to them, that you talk about the news stories that matter, that don't get covered by your MSNBCs, your CNNs, and definitely not your Fox Newses, or anyone else, your BBCs, your Reuters, your AP. There's so many organizations. And all these organizations all over the world are owned by white people. Controlled and owned. It's ubiquitously white. The Oscars, how many times have I sat behind this microphone, dear listener, and said, and you know this very well, the absolutely disgraceful history of the Academy, and how there's only been one black woman that's ever won an Oscar for Best Actress in 93 years of Oscars. It's disgraceful. Disgraceful. And again, the membership in the Academy still is 90+% white. I would love to think that in 93 years of the Academy voting on Oscars, that there would be some white people that would think and find it in their hearts to say, you know what? Damn, that performance really was the best one. I'm going to vote for that. Not, damn, that's my buddy over there and I like them. I'm going to vote for them because they're my friend. Or, damn, I'm going to be an anti-racist and I'm actually going to shed this racist skin that I may have. And I'm going to have a little bit of courage here. And I'm going to vote for someone else. Someone who doesn't look like I do. For once, I'm going to do that. Because, by the way, that person who doesn't look like me, damn, she was really good. What a performance that was. But that hasn't happened largely over 93 years. It has been as you were, carry on. And that's what's happened in the Academy. Why do people think that people like Cheryl Boone Isaacs, the former Academy president now, and filmmaker Ava DuVernay, and other people have worked so hard behind the scenes to diversify the Academy membership? Why do you think we had nominees this year, that were much more black, brown, Asian? You had a Muslim nominee, at least one, for Best Actor. Why do you think that's all happened? It ain't because the white members of that overwhelmingly white Academy decided, we're going to wake up and change. It's because there are black folk and a few conscious white folk who have decided, no, we need to change this stuff. We've got to change the membership because it will keep voting these mediocre ass white actors and directors to the winner's circle on Oscar night. They'll keep doing that. If we don't change this, you're going to see a lot of talent that gets ignored. I mean, how many? You can count on a million fingers and toes. All the times in the Academy Awards where people who have won go up there and you're shaking your head going, how the hell did they win? I'm not going to name the names. I've named names before. I'm not naming any now. And these people who win, half of them are not any good for what they won for. And then that black woman sits there and her performance is completely ignored. And then everyone knows her performance is better than the white woman that got up there and is stumbling over a speech. Everybody knows it. So does the person who freaking well won the award knows it. But she's the one picking up the award, and the black woman is sitting over there, I'm sure internally going, man, this is an absolute disgrace. Well, that's what the reality is, folks. It's the reality. It's right in your face. It's so obvious. I don't see how anyone can ignore it. And this goes on industry through industry through industry. It's a system. And for one day, she didn't even say there I go again. Lori Lightfoot, the mayor of Chicago, did not even say, I'm going to do this for the rest of my term. She just said one day, an anniversary day. And you've got some white people and a Latino or two jumping up and down. Oh, I'm going to sit out. I'm going to agree to this, but then I'm going to sit out to make a point. Fuck your point. Who gives a shit what your point is? Because it sure as heck ain't as important as the fact that I have hammered home here that these newsrooms are lily-ass white. And it is past time that changes are made. And the only way changes are going to be made is if we keep talking about it and we do something about it. Sitting out to make a point ain't shit. It ain't going to do a jack shit or anything. It is only going to be you siding with the power structure that continues to oppress black folk and brown folk. And as I've said, there's always going to be those brown and black folk who participate in this foolishness, or rather this oppression of their own people. And that includes some reporters, like this Latino reporter, who thought it was a great idea. I'm going to sit out to make a point. Fuck you. Who cares what point you make? Jackass. Nobody cares about your point. The point is that we've got 99% white newsrooms all across the United States. And that's bigger than your point to sit out. Ooh, I'm not going to accept the invite of Mayor Lightfoot to be interviewed, to interview her. Oh, God, pompous ass. This is the madness of it all. And then you got those idiots on Fox, those racists on Fox, talking their BS and their lies. And half the country eating it up. Yum, 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 yum. And it's all lies. And racism and lies. Oh, yum, 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 yum. Oh, I love it. Ooh, all right. Absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Nobody thinks. None of these people who, yum, 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 yum. They don't think. They don't want to think. Because thinking hurts their heads. They don't read. They don't think. They want everything on autopilot. And I'm telling you right now, they are showing profound levels of ignorance that are dangerous. This is really problematic. And these newsrooms need to be more black and brown. And in the meantime, we need to have continued black-owned media like Roland Martin Unfiltered. Roland Martin, you can catch his show Monday through Friday, as I've talked about many times here, on YouTube, live from 6 p.m. East through 8 p.m. East, Monday through Friday, at youtube.com/Roland S, as in Sam, Martin. I'll be right back.
And hope and prosperity for many, not just for the few, a city that holds equity and inclusion as our guiding principles.
And that's Mayor Lightfoot there from, again, May 20th, 2019, her speech at her inauguration. Now, listen, as Chicago's first black female mayor and first lesbian mayor. Or first gay mayor. Now, she calls herself lesbian, so that's the reason why I use that term. I use that term because she uses it, although I really should use the word gay. I don't know how women who are gay feel about that. I mean, maybe that's a conversation to have in a forthcoming episode, and that's not trivial. And it's not semantical either. These things are very important. I keep saying that language is a very important thing. And the way we use words and the words we use are critical. It is not semantics whatsoever. And so, that's another conversation that I really should broach here in an episode down the road. Really, honestly, because this is important. This is very important. And people use words like it means nothing. Every word means something. It really does. And I'm telling you, if you want to be a better person and you want to have a better world and a better society, you have to start with yourself, obviously, and you've got to start with the kind of language you use and the language you speak and the language you think in. Yes, it does require work. Just like working on yourself in general requires work. It ain't a picnic, and it can't be done with cosmetics. It's got to be done internally with you, your heart, your soul, your attitude, the way you think and feel about certain things, about people. That takes work. That takes a lifetime of work. And so then that was, again, Mayor Lightfoot talking about diversity and inclusion. And those tweets I read out earlier are exactly what she stayed true to in that speech when she talked about having black and brown journalists interview her. How many times have black journalists and brown journalists been excluded from all kinds of things? And all these people who are making noise about Lori Lightfoot, and they didn't say any damn thing when Donald Trump wasn't allowing black journalists to interview him. They weren't saying shit when that was going on. When Donald Trump only allowed Russians to come in and remember that? See, some people forget, and conveniently so. People have short memories. In 2017 or thereabouts, or whenever it was, and you had Sergei whomever in there, and Kislyak was in there, and this is when Trump was giving them bloomin' secrets, classified bloomin' intelligence secrets, and the Washington Post did a whole thing on this, and I've talked about it before, and he only allowed Russian journalists to interview, to cover the event, and he threw out all the U.S. press. I didn't hear a whole lot. Maybe there was some stink about it. I have not heard it. Doesn't mean it didn't happen. If a tree falls in the forest and no one's there. But I didn't hear anything about this. But now, one freaking day where the black mayor of Chicago says that she wants black and brown journalists to be interviewing her. On one bloomin' day to commemorate and celebrate the anniversary, or 2-year anniversary of her inauguration. Oh, all of a sudden, as the first black female mayor of Chicago, all of a freaking sudden, now we got these jackasses and these racists out here jumping up and down. Come on now, don't get punked by these people. Don't let these people punk you. Don't let these racists do that to you. You come on now. Getting distracted from what the real issue is. The real issue is what I've said. You go through all these organizations. Look at the workplace you work in. How many black people do you see there? And I'm not talking about the receptionist, and I'm not talking about the security, and I'm not talking about the janitorial staff. How many black and brown people do you see in your workplace? How many black and brown people do you see as your boss? How many black and brown bosses do you have? How many black bosses have you ever had in all your working years? And I'm actually addressing this particularly to white people. How many black bosses have you had? How many? I want you to tell me. How many black bosses have you had? How many black-owned companies have you worked for? And in the white news media organizations that you may have worked for, or any white organization you've ever worked for, how many black folk are on the board of directors? How many black people are vice presidents or presidents of those companies? How many? How many of these Fortune 500 companies have black CEOs? There's a few, not many. How many black female CEOs are there in these Fortune 500 companies and executives and people on board? How many? And how much power do they have? It's time to get real. And it's time to confront this racism and get rid of these institutionally racist places. Absolutely condemn them and get rid of them. And let's start building structures that actually do include us and include people across the board, black and brown and native. Because you ain't got a society when you've got only one group of people in it that's running everything. And a lot of these folks do not intend to give up their power. I'm telling you, the white people who are running these things, they don't intend to give up their power. Frederick Douglass talked about this years ago. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never has, and it never will. We've got to get off the sidelines and start demanding. Not asking, demanding. We've got to do the work. Thank you very much for listening to this edition of the Politicrat. I'm Omar Moore.